Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Today is part 3 of our 4-part division preview series as we await the 2026 regular SimNFL season. If you're unfamiliar with what we do here at SimSN, come check us out on the website and on Discord. We would love to have you. So, today we are covering both of the West divisions per the poll results. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. So, first off, in the AFC West, of course, we have to talk about the Denver Broncos, the 4-time conference champion, who added a couple players in a trade with Arizona in Anthony Helton and Thomas Gezik. Gezik, a 74 overall, 31 years old. And added Shakir, the cornerback, in free agency. As part of that Arizona trade, moving on from Timothy Goganis, fullback Craig Crosby, and Ryan Segovia, a young offensive tackle. But that was it for the major moves for Denver over the offseason. As for progressions, Peter London, only 30 years old, is up to an 88 overall. One of his targets, Raymond Stelly, up to 84, and then growth along the offensive and defensive lines as well. Particularly that D-line, Rahi up to a 91 overall, Garban up to an 86. Regressions is certainly a big story, including Charles Grady being down to a 75, both of their top tight ends in Rhodes and Supervilla regressing, Jason Taylor, Garcia, Phil Nagel, George Kent, even their punter, Wayne Sutton. Age definitely catching up to a lot of places on this roster. Although we can see from the progression side, still a lot of strong players there as well. And it's not like Nagel, who is a 78 overall, or Kent, who is a 77 overall. It's not like they're not worth starting at this point, because they absolutely are. So certainly strength for the Broncos, as I mentioned, on those two offensive and defensive lines. Offensive line, Parrish is an 84, Naylor at 78, Helton at 88, Estudillo at 84, Dixon at 88. Particularly two great tackles and an excellent center, but really strength all along the line. And then the defensive line, Rahi is a 91, Garban at 86, Bruce is a 95. Chad Bruce, I believe, still tied with Oscar Martinez of the Packers for highest overall. And continuing to set the bar of highest overall we've ever seen. Again, 95 is what they are at currently. So definitely a strength of the team. If I had to pick out a weakness, it would be tight end. Again, Rhodes is a 74, and Sobervilla is a 71. Both of them are regressing. So if there was one spot to pick on, it would definitely be tight end. Though also we'll talk about the defensive secondary and can they keep pace with their division opponents. We'll talk about the rest of the division here shortly, of course. And similar to what I said with the regressions, these are strong players. It just happens that they're on the other side of prime age. Remy going -1, Kent going -3. That's their cornerbacks. The free safety Hinton going -2. And then their strong safety Robles did improve, but he's a 70 overall 28-year-old. So not the highest ceiling there. And in particular, when we look at the way the engine is primed to move this offseason with a little more focus on passing, considering how powerful rushing was last year, you've got one of the best rushing teams in the sim and the defensive secondary pass defense that is aging. So we will see if there's a shifting paradigm in the sim, or at least a greater opportunity for passing teams, and if that hurts the Broncos at all, being primarily a rushing offense with an aging pass defense. So we'll see if any of those engine changes or optimizations affect the Broncos at all, the way their roster is set up. But certainly, I don't think it's far-fetched to predict them winning the division yet again and having one or multiple playoff wins. Again, this is a 4-time conference champ. You bet against them at your own peril. Coming up strong in second place in the AFC West, we have the LA Chargers. who made some big trades, including getting Richard McGuire from Chicago and Edwin Garcia from Baltimore. So an 87 and an 83 joining that team. William Gustafson in a rare Eagles trade is coming to LA, and then bringing on Razul Miller, and then drafting Harrison Rodriguez, as of now the highest overall player that we know of for sure in the draft, and he's only 22 years old. Incredible pick for the Chargers. As part of those trades, in addition to moving picks, they did lose Jose Malero, James Carter, who, again, 30 but still 77 overall running back, Charles Thomas, and then maybe this could be a big one, Francis Barmore, their kicker, who departed for free agency. And then of the players still on the team from last year, improvements from Denoris White and Diego Johnson. Generally, the Chargers having a very talented but very young offensive line. So this is the kind of growth they need to see. Ray Easton from that first draft class going +5, and then Jesus Gonzalez +4. He's up to 89 overall. And then some additional growth in their defensive starters as well. But lots of strong growth, lots of +4s and +5s for the Chargers, which is what you want to see on a young team. Sebastian Moore did drop a couple spots. Still on the Chargers, if my records are correct, and going -2. So biggest strength for the Chargers is honestly quarterback. Miguel Aguilera just re-signed on a long-term contract. He's an 87 overall with 88 throw power, 88 accuracy, 81 IQ, 95 agility, and 97 speed. Absolutely incredible athlete. And then he's got a wide receiver now. He's got McGuire and Garcia, as we mentioned, and then a young Calderon, and then rookie Beck at third and fourth wide receiver. So they brought in some veterans, and then they have a strong rookie in Zach Beck as well. So a lot to like with that unit. I mentioned offensive tackle as a weakness. Again, this is a very young unit. They're going to improve, and I think they will be the class of the league in a couple years. As of right now, White is a 71 overall. He is 24. Albers is a 69. He's 26 years old. Lynch might get the start over him, being younger. He's a 67 overall. He's 24. So again, as far as overall and age and combination, looking long-term, definitely a strength. As of right now, could be a weakness as those young players continue to develop. And the biggest question is how quickly do these offensive skill players gel into a team? They've acquired a lot of talent with a big cost. So it's a question of, now it's on the coaching staff, now that the front office has assembled this roster, what can the coaches do with it? And can they convert those numbers on the page into wins on the field? I think they should be able to do that. I think they'll be in the wild card. I think they have the talent and the skill to be second place only to the Broncos in this division and work their way into the playoffs. Moving on up are the Kansas City Chiefs, who had a very busy offseason with trades and drafts. Here are just the most major ones. Obviously, the big news, bringing in David Chop, 90 overall quarterback in that trade with Baltimore. Bringing in a couple linebackers from Tampa Bay, James Carter from the Chargers. A couple of safeties from Baltimore. A couple of linemen from Detroit. Veteran Jim Jong, tight end from Jacksonville. And then bringing in Phillip Adams and Levon Irberon as part of a excellent draft. So yeah, a huge amount of turnover, starting to get to the kind of things you might actually see in the real NFL as teams turn over frequently. And then as part of that trade, again, in addition to draft capital moving and changing hands, James Cohn, Ariel Lemon Jr., their excellent UDFA from last year, going to Baltimore, along with Michael Garrett. Rodolfo Chavez is in Vegas. William Redmond was traded to the Dolphins, and young Martin Sears to the Jets. So an immense amount of roster turnover for the Chiefs as they look to build a contender and get on the fast track to that. As for progressions, they did have a speed wide receiver, Michael Walker, getting up to a 75 overall. Luis Van Slyke, who they just re-signed to a nice, cozy contract, going +5. Thuria, their left tackle, is an 89. Thornsberry is a 75. Gupta an 84. And Prater is 75. So tremendous growth along that offensive line as well. And then one regression, Eric Copeland, their punter, going -4. A lot of regressing punters this year might be something we need to look into. So now that offensive line, as I just mentioned, certainly a strength, with Thuriat and Gupta both above 80 and everyone else above 73. And in addition to their top 5 linemen, they've got Pinto, who's a 70, and Webb, who's a 72. So a lot of talent and depth on that offensive line now. And then at quarterback, Benedict Luna is an 89 overall. Wei Bao is a 74, but he plays like an 85 if you look at his stats. And then they've got free safety Greer, who's a 76. So a lot to like in that defensive secondary on this revamped team. Do have to call out the wide receivers. Walker is improving, but he's a 75. Angeles is a 71. And then young Chad Dolis, who's a dual position guy, but he can play wide receiver, is a 66 overall at 24. So another group still developing. As for questions, again, is this team going to improve on the field as well as it did on paper? I think David Chop is the prime example of that. The reason he left, or Baltimore was willing to part with him, is he wasn't playing like a high 80s overall quarterback. But we'll see what he can do in Kansas City. People are already saying if he has even a decent, let alone a good season, he could be a comeback player of the year, which is not an award we officially have, but I think Chop could get us to create one if he really balled out this year. So yeah, similar to Los Angeles, we see what the numbers say on the page, that this team got a lot better. Can they convert that to wins on the field? I think it's a tough division, so I have them moving up to 3rd from last place. But I don't know if playoffs are in order with 4 games a year against the Broncos and Chargers. They do have a 4th place schedule, though, so they will be getting some small advantage from that. Finally, in the AFC West, you got the Vegas Raiders. It's late. I'm not going to do the voice, but ask Sage or someone else. They brought in, as we said, Rodolfo Chavez in a trade session with the Chiefs, and then had a great draft. Joel Campos, one of the best cover corners in the draft, 69 overall and only 22. A pair of young running backs in Irving and Milner, and then A.J. Cantor was a great find for them as well. So really, really building up through the draft, which you like to see. And then Stephen McIntosh, who I believe is supposed to be listed as cornerback in a trade with Green Bay. Moving on. As for progressions, they had some strong growth on the defensive line, as well as young Andrew Richards, 79 overall, excellent receiver on a team of excellent receivers. Kevin Cordova as well. Surprisingly few regressions for a team that in my mind is a lot older. Dennis Jones -2, Timothy Monahan -2. So for a couple of 30 and up guys, some minor regressions there, but not as long of a list as I initially thought it would be. Strengths, definitely wide receiver. Still, Blank is a 92. Richards, as we said, is now a 79. They've got Chavez, who's a 73. So a strong wide receiver group there. Outside linebacker is a concern. Chichi Colombo is only 23. So he's got his best years ahead of him, but he's only 62 right now. So some improvement still to be made there. Biggest question now, so is James Hickson elevating his receivers, or is it now worked to be the other way around? No shade on Hickson. He's 33 and still has 84 throw power, 87 accuracy, 79 speed, which I did not know. Great for a pocket guy. 76 IQ, football IQ. He went -1 technically in progressions from 78 overall to a 77. But he's got a phenomenal receiving core, even without Charles Brown. So maybe it's all the same to the Raiders as long as the passing game keeps churning the yards out. But it might be the case that now it's the receivers who are making Hickson look good and not the other way around. I do think this team might take a step back. I think they drafted well. I think the future is bright. But looking at the juggernaut that is the Broncos, and then the huge steps that the Chargers and especially the Chiefs took to really get better, I think it's going to make that division ultra competitive. I think we've seen at least one mock season that had the Raiders go like 9-7, or 9-8, and finish last in the division. So fourth place might not necessarily mean a high draft pick for this team. Maybe more a state of the division as a whole. Moving over to the NFC now, and sticking with the West, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who had a pretty quiet offseason. They were heavily cap limited, particularly with a lot of contracts tied up in big bonus money, so they weren't able to make a lot of moves. They did draft Ariel Malik with one of their highest draft picks after moving most of their day 1 and 2 picks because they would not have been able to pay those players. So they moved them for future picks. So when they get a little bit of cap space back, they can still use them. No major departures. As far as progressions, Avila going +4 at age 34. Certainly not the news the rest of the NFC was wanting to hear. And then the rest of those triplets, Bruce Dawson and Anthony Larry going +4 as well. Larry up to an 88 overall, still only 29 years old. Ramon Newton and Thomas Odom in the defensive backfield, getting into the high 70s as well. They did get hit big by regressions, though. Scott Baldwin, on the other hand, is 31. He went -2. A couple of their linemen in the negatives as well. Richard Lucia at 33 went a big -5. Mario Cisneros had an amazing season last year, but did go -3. Paul Craven -4. Edward Rivera -5. So age definitely taking a toll on this Rams roster. Still strengths at defensive end and safety. Defensive end, they have Poku, who's an 80 overall at age 30. Lucia, still a 78 at age 33. So still a strong pair, though again on the other side of prime age. And then Odom and Lee, 78 and 85 there at safety. Of course, that big move, bringing Darrell Lee in from Denver, paying a big price for him in terms of picks last year, and then signing him to a big extension for the next couple of years. As for weaknesses, I would call out cornerback and defensive tackle. So Newton's a 75 and on the way up. Bombarger's a 73. Frost is a 69. So some decent mid-tier players there, but not the strongest on the team. Then defensive tackle, they have Dixon and Mallory, who are both 73 overall. So big question, the offensive line has a lot of miles on it, on all 5 of them. Can they continue to protect Avila, who really is the cornerstone of that offense? And can that passing game still carry the rest of the team? Avila has produced absolutely filthy numbers for years, thousands upon thousands of yards. I mean, you could measure his production in miles at this point in just 4 years of his career. But can the offensive line protect him, and can the rest of the team up their game, or is that passing game still going to be basically carrying the team at its full production? I do think this team can still win the West. We'll talk more about why as we look at the other teams. I do think they're in prime position for a one-and-done season. You know, maybe they're the 4 seed, the lowest division champ, and they lose to the best wild card. Yeah, I think they have the talent to win their division. I don't know about making a deep run, though. So let's talk about Seattle Seahawks, who added Patrick Parker in free agency and Alex Figueroa as part of the draft. They did lose Rizzo Miller to free agency, but otherwise a fairly quiet offseason for the Seahawks as well. They did get some solid progressions. The biggest one, Jeremiah West, going +4 for them. Jacob Kearns and Luis Cruz up to the 80s overall. Alejandro Ruja going +6. He's a 76 overall at 25 years old. Christian Carter also going +6, also another phenomenal draft pick for them, former first rounder, now up to 75. Daniel Mendoza up to 83. Godwin Johnson, another draft pick, up to +5. So we are seeing early draft picks from previous drafts, definitely starting to pay some big dividends there. Another punter regression, William Shuck, as well as Paul Huffman going -2. He's a 72 overall currently. So with all that said, linebacker is still a really big strength for the Seattle Seahawks. Brandon Schroeder is a 91 overall. Definitely the best linebacker in the stem. A plus potential, true potential, and still with some improving years ahead of him. Carter, we saw a 75. Mateo is a 70 overall at age 24. Definitely a strong unit on the team. Wide receiver, not so much. They still have Hoffman, who's an 81 overall at age 32. But then it drops off quickly from there. Bailey's a 68. Edmonds is a 69. DuVernay Tardif is a 67. Although the latter two are 24 and 25 years old, respectively. So again, improvement to come, one would hope. Looking at that wide receiver group and acknowledging, even with the Jeremiah West improvements, is this Clayton McGee's offense to carry? And is he ready to do so in his second year? Great rookie season, great athlete. We'll see if they build the offensive game plan around him in 2026. A fairly tepid prediction, keeping them about where they were last year. That is second place in the division and contending for the playoffs. They just missed this year. But considering they had minimal movement in the offseason, I think that, steady state is an appropriate call. We'll see if they can leapfrog some of these other teams like the Eagles, and if they can get into the playoffs this year. Now I want to talk about the San Francisco 49ers, who went 1-16 last year and had the top pick. And of course, spent it on Scott Romero, 64 overall quarterback, picked number 1 overall. He is the bigger rival of the season, as the team only had 4 draft picks before trades. Before draft day trades, I don't remember if they added more. They did have a big trade moving Rodney LaBelle to New England. I think they got a future second for that. And then Michael Hammond left for free agency as well. But in terms of progressions, had some awesome progressions. Carlos Ramos at +4. Robbie Stewart is up to 79 overall at just 25 years old. Franklin Mitchell progressed well. Joseph Rasmussen, John Gordon, also all of them going +5. So big numbers on the progression side for the 49ers. Some minor progressions. Biggest one there, Marcus Maldonado, now in the regressing ages at 31. But still 76 overall. Samuel Bronson going -2 on that defense. Still, I think the offensive line is a strength. Robbie Stewart as a 79 and Joseph Bordewick as a 92. Definitely highlighting that list. They also want to call out, in addition to the 5 O-line starters, they've got an excellent blocking tight end in Laborde. He's only a 65 overall, but he has 77 run blocking. So basically a 6th lineman on this team that definitely can use it. Weaknesses, Bronson is an inside linebacker. He's their best. He's a 72 at age 32. His backup is a 68 overall at age 30. So not a ton of upside there. And then at safety, Gordon's a 74. Richmond is a 71. Both of them 28 years old. Obviously the focus is going to be on Scott Romero, number 1 overall pick. Can he unlock the potential, lowercase p, of the team's other first-round offensive talent? So obviously you have Nebel, their first from last year at running back. But then Fernando Thomas, wide receiver, was a 2023 first-round pick, and Carlos Ramos was a 22 first-round pick. Now, I know those first couple of drafts weren't necessarily as strong or as deep as they are now, but still that's a lot of draft capital spent on the offensive side of the ball, particularly on offensive skill players. Can Romero really bring out the full potential of that group? And can they build an offense around him? I think this team is going to move up to 3rd place. I think they're going to have a franchise high for number of wins in a season. Now, that's not the boldest claim because so far their highest win total for a season is 3. They won 2 games the inaugural season, 3, and then 3, and then 1 last year en route to the number 1 overall pick. So I'm predicting more than 3 wins, which would be good for the 49ers. But I do think this franchise is moving in the right direction. Excited to see what Romero and the rest of the offense can do this year. Finally, that leaves us with the Arizona Cardinals, a team that, according to Alex Fall's analysis, bears a striking resemblance to the Arizona Cardinals. As we mentioned in that trade with Denver, they brought in 3 players, including a young tackle in Segovia and Timothy Gorganis, 75 overall center. Also drafted Caleb Ryder after trading up to number 4 overall. Also got a great draft pick in Alexi Castro, 62 overall tackle. Minor departures, well, Anthony Helton's a fantastic center. He was moved as part of that trade with Denver. And then Thomas Gazik, who's a Pro Bowler last year, phenomenal player, now with the Broncos as well. As for progressions, great progressions on the offensive line with Vivaro and Pradden, both going +5. Kendall Dunn going +5 as well. And then a couple of +4s in the defensive secondary from Jermaine and Washington. Although all those players still just getting into the high 60s, maybe lower 70s with those progressions. Jack Owsley going -3. He's all the way down to a 61, still kicking it at 36 years old. And then Patrick Johnson going -1, their starting quarterback, who's a 77 overall at age 35. Strength of this team, do have to say, Johnson still looking like a solid quarterback. Throw power 76, accuracy 73, IQ of 90. The man's got his experience going for him. And still 79 speed. Not bad for a 35-year-old pocket quarterback. When you compare that to some of the other attributes and some of the other positions, that's a strength. Weaknesses, this list could have been a lot longer, but I wanted to focus on places where it's not just second and third year players, because again, you expect those players will grow over time, and their weakness is more a result of their age, not a result of their talent ceiling. But tight end is particularly bad. They have Dan Johnson, who's a 58 overall, and Redmond is a 56. Again, both of those men only 23, but you're looking at least 2, probably 3 seasons before you break 70 and get into that kind of replacement level. So tight end, definitely a weakness. Cornerbacks, not the best. Jermaine and Washington, as I mentioned, improving up to 69 and 65 at the age of 25, both of them. And then Forbes is a 63 overall at age 23. So same story as the rest of the roster, young, but hopefully going to improve. But those are the ones I wanted to highlight after a close look. When's the draft? I think it is going to be, one more long season for the Cardinals faithful. I do love Kay Green and what he is doing with the Cardinals. I think they are on the right track. I think it's just going to be a long way up. The Caleb Ryder pick, I think he's going to be a phenomenal player, even with low potential. I think he's going to get the playing time for that. I do think trading picks to move up, to get quality over quantity, was a surprising pick. But again, we'll see what Ryder can do from that defensive tackle position, and maybe he can really elevate those players around him. But I think it's going to be a long year for Cardinals fans. Looking forward to next year's draft. Probably going to have another high pick. But we should see everybody play, see everybody improve, see the team move on up from there. As I said, I think 4th place in the NFC West, and probably an early draft pick coming again for the Cardinals. That is everything I have for this episode of the SimNFL show. Join us next week when we get to the final part 4 of our division preview series. We will talk about our last 8 teams, and then we will finish with a full season look at estimates for records and playoff seeds for every team, and that will be my last bit of off-season content, and then we will pick up again when the preseason rolls around. But again, that is all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by, and as I say to all users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.